right, so this will probably be like the final thing for the day. I did take a closer look at this with Peter, and he did convince me that we'll probably change this assessment for next time around. You won't, unfortunately, see this, but I think we're going to change it next time around because it's a little bit, the domain knowledge you have to know in order to understand this is a little bit high, and it's written a little confusingly, so we are going to simplify it for the next group. So thank you for that feedback. So we started off, we went through all of the README right here. We created a schema that we more or less feel comfortable with. And now we're going to translate all of this into SQL. But we're not going to write pure SQL. We're just going to set up, we're going to set up the ActiveRecord version of it. So you'll notice that every single migration has a timestamp and then a specific action that it's doing. So you want to make sure all of these files are named in such a way where someone can read it and know immediately what's going on. This one is creating departments. And I think that's all I want it to do. I don't want it to do anything else. If I wanted to create like an initial schema, then I can write create initial schema and create a bunch of different tables. But based off of this naming right here, it says like create departments. So I expect this just to create departments. I don't expect it to also create healthcare plans and employee groups and so on and so forth. So I'm going to just leave it like this for now. And I'm going to generate another migration. So rake-t, capital T, will list out all the different rake commands that I have available to me. And the one I'm looking for right specifically is called rake db new migration, and then I'm passing in the name of that migration. So maybe I'll do a rake db new migration and create rest of initial schema, just to avoid doing individual ones for like individual migrations for individual tables. You definitely could do that. I'm just doing it to save some time. So I run this command. It's going to, oh crap. I typed it in wrong. It needs to be in square brackets. My mistake. All right, so it creates a file. All this is doing is just creating a file for us so that we don't have to type in this ugly timestamp. And again, the timestamp is 2017, October 9th at 6:32 p.m. and 36 seconds UTC time, which is 5 hours ahead of Chicago time. Makes sense. We are at 1:30, and then they're going to be at 6:32. So if I jump back over here, you'll see that I created a new file called create table rest of initial schema. I don't think I want to keep this because it's going to create a table inside my database called rest of initial schemas. So I'm just going to more or less copy and paste what I had earlier and just dump it in here. And these execute in order. So what happens is when you actually migrate it over, so first things first, let's actually just run rake db drop. This is dropping the entire database and all the tables within it. So your database is completely gone. It says drop database, assessment 3 development, and assessment 3 test. Everything is gone. All your records, the database itself, all your tables, all the columns, everything is destroyed. When I do rake db create, all it's doing is just creating an empty database. There's no tables, there's no columns. It's just, you can imagine this as just a box. There's nothing inside of it right yet, as of yet. When I go into the next one and I do rake db migrate, what's going to happen is it's going to look inside the migrations folder and start with the first migration ever made by timestamp. That's why these timestamps are here. And then it's going to run everything inside of here. So which is create table departments, and it'll create that table called departments. Then it's going to go into the next file, and if you have multiple files, it'll just go top to bottom based on the timestamps. And that's what's happening during the migration. For now, I'm going to just, for now, I will delete this file and just run rake db migrate. So I've dropped the database completely empty, created an empty database. There's no tables inside of it. Then I run rake db migrate, and then it just reads, okay, I'm going to go inside the migrate folder, look for anything with a timestamp on it, and then do what it says in there. And in our case, it is creating a table called departments, and this is what's inside. Now we can connect to this two ways. One is we can just do pSQL, whatever the name of the database is, which is I think assessment 3 development. And then you can kind of like list out all the tables. And there's that departments we were talking about. We can \D for departments as well. And you can kind of see, like this is what we have, like the name, the headquarters city, the phone number. So this is one way we could connect to the database. We do pSQL and then the name of the database. So that's using SQL. If we wanted to connect with it using like the rake console, we'll do that in just a little bit. I don't think it'll work right now. Rake console loads up an IRB shell for you, like the Ruby shell, but it also could connect to the database. So if I do like, I'm not sure it'll work right now. So if I do department.new, it's because we haven't created a model yet, but we'll get to it. So let's finish up what we have here. So I'm going to create, I'm just going to create a new file. Actually, no, I will run the rake migration thing again. I'm going to create a new migration because I deleted the old one because I'm going to run migrate again just to demonstrate that. Let's take a look at what our schema looks like. Healthcare plans. Let's just do one for create employees. And then we'll do one more called create healthcare plans and groups. And what you'll notice about the name, the way I'm naming it here, is that every single capital letter is a new word, and Rails automatically notices that for me. So you can kind of see, even though I have a create departments with a capital C and capital D, it turns into create underscore departments. It separates those words out for you. That's how they know. Same thing with create employees, and then same thing with create healthcare plans and groups. And it's just smart enough to do that for you.
I want to see the giant hash table of like plurals to singulars.
You want to see it?
Or somebody actually created?
Someone actually created it. That's correct. Yeah. So there's a giant table for plural to singular nouns. So if I did like dogs, like they know there's a table that says the plural of dog is dogs, the plural of goose is geese, and then I think the one that it breaks on is like no, it's not oxen because one ox is one oxen. Oxen is multiple. I think it's like geese. Goose and geese.
Moose and moose?
Yeah, moose. I was like, is it moosin? Is it meese? That was the one I found it to break on. But most usual nouns that you will use can be easily pluralized. But someone literally went and figured out how to do that. Again, it's one of those things. Someone put in a lot of work ahead of time, so you don't really have to think about it. All right, so let's talk about this employees table. Has all of these things on there: name, age, salary. T.string, name, T.integer, age, T.integer, salary.
It makes that shell for you. Okay.
Yeah, it creates the shell around it for me. And healthcare group and department ID. Now, what I can do here is I have an option. I can do T.integer of healthcare employee group ID. Healthcare employee group ID, or I can do T.belongs to healthcare employee group. These two are synonymous. Some people from like pure SQL backgrounds love to do it this way, which is like, I want to know that there's an ID on there. Like that's the way that they think. That's fine. You can also do it with T.belongs to, because in the Rails mindset and a lot of object oriented, you have a lot of those has many, belongs to. It's the way that you think about it. It's your call what you would like to do. These two are synonymous. Pick one.
It seems to like result in. Well, I mean, in the schema table, it ends up like different.
It doesn't. It ends up being the same. So the T.belongs to is ActiveRecord's way of writing the same this. So these two are literally synonymous. You can write either one and it will put an ID on there.
Oh, interesting.
Did it not do that for you?
Yeah, I thought there was like one of us like bring up some like index line or something.
Yeah, you can create an index on it, but usually whenever you connect one table to another, there's going to be an index brought on it. An index is basically a way to quickly reference something in one table. So it's like if I'm going to be like searching by someone's first name very often, I can create an index on that first name, meaning I can connect to it much faster than like a usual SQL query. Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, the T dot belongs to the healthcare employee group. How come you don't have to have a belongs to department then as well?
Oh, I haven't gotten there yet. That's all.
Oh,
I haven't gotten there. I was here, now I'm going down. And the same thing with T dot belongs to a department.
So is that your preference belongs to?
My personal preference is belongs to, but that's because I'm a Rails guy. That's what I've been doing for a long time. But I can do integer just to show that you can do both. All right, so I created the department, all of this kind of stuff. I created a table called employees, and then I have the healthcare plans and all the groups next. So I'm going to try to get all these three just in one schema so we don't have to create all these different migrations over and over. So let's do healthcare plans, we'll do healthcare groups, and then we'll connect the two. So healthcare plans, healthcare employee groups, and then we'll create that join table in the middle of healthcare plans and healthcare employee groups. All right, if I'm not mistaken, we have just a name and an enrollment deadline. Okay, so T dot string for name, T dot date time, I think, for enrollment deadline. Healthcare employee groups just has a name and a department ID. So T dot string for name, and then T dot belongs to department. And then finally, this join table in the middle. So I just do T dot belongs to healthcare plan and T dot belongs to healthcare employee group. I'm going to pause there because I'm fairly certain I just lost like half the class.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, so what was the previous class again that we were just working on?
Oh, employees.
Okay, so we were just working on create employees. Okay, and now we're going to create healthcare plans and groups.
Yeah, so I ideally you would only have one thing per migration. Like this is just in charge of taking care of departments. This one's just in charge of taking care of employees. I wanted to avoid just wasting your all's time by just throwing it all in one migration. So that's why I created a create healthcare plans and groups like migration, which is basically saying inside of this migration, I'm going to create healthcare plans and I'm going to create healthcare groups.
Okay, cool. So if you know you're going to do something, you can put it all in one.
You could just throw it all in one, yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, the best case scenario is one file does one thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it is better to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The best thing to do is one thing per migration.
One thing per migration.
One thing per migration. So just creating departments, just creating employees.
Okay.
This would be 3 more migrations, just creating healthcare plans, just creating healthcare employee groups, and then.
Is that for debugging purposes or what's the?
It's mostly for debugging purposes, yeah. You just want to it's a little easier when everything does one thing.
Yeah.
Question, like
Yes.
if you do this one in SQL, and then when you join the table, you have to create like a foreign key.
Correct, yeah, but the belongs to here will create that foreign key for you.
So this one gonna refer to foreign key.
Yeah, the belongs to basically tells that there's going to be a foreign key. You don't have to write like foreign key true like you do in SQL.
SQL we have to.
SQL you have to, and here you don't. This will translate it into SQL.
And does it matter like it's belong to it has many to many or like?
So we'll get to that in just a bit. In terms of just setting up the database, though, you can kind of see that if a table has something underscore ID, that's a belongs to relationship. So you have to put that in the schema creation, like in these migrations, I mean. And then later down the road, when we get to the models, we will do the has many and belongs to directly on the models. So there's 2 steps to do it.
If we do in SQL, they have no relationship like the has many or belong to, right?
No,
Just
it's just a foreign key. Yeah. So if everything goes well, I can run. So I ran 1 migration thus far. I just created a bunch of departments. If all goes well, I could do rake db migrate again, and what it will do is it'll go inside of my database and say, okay, did this execute already? Great. If not, did this execute next? If it did, then we'll move on to the next one. If not, we'll actually just run this. So if I run rake db migrate, this might blow up. We'll find out.
You probably want to have your joint files last, right?
Yeah. So
It's too long.
it's not that. So we did, if you can kind of see, we created departments first. That was the first thing we did, and then we created the rest of these 2 files, the create employees and the create employee healthcare and plans. When we ran this, there was an error. It said standard error, an error has occurred, and this and all later migrations are canceled. So I'm just going to read through it. Healthcare plans, healthcare employee groups on is too long. The limit is 63 characters. So the name of this is, the name of the file is just a little bit too long.
Oh, interesting.
So let's go back and we can change this to something else. We'll just do create plans and groups. Fair?
Okay.
It still does the same thing here. Create plans and groups. Are you saying this is too long?
I think it's saying that the index that it's going to create out of that belongs to, out of that one table, is going to be too long.
Let's find out. Let's see what happens. So I'll run migrate one more time. Ah, it's still an issue. Okay.
You see, it's saying index name, index healthcare plans, healthcare employee groups on healthcare plan ID.
Yeah.
It's saying the index I'm trying to create between these 2 tables is too long of a name.
Okay. Maybe we can name this something else then. Maybe a. So I was. Maybe what would you want it, like the traditional thing to do here is just to smash the 2 together, but they say the name is too long. Is there something else that makes sense here? So I was talking with Peter a little earlier. We have like a healthcare plan. Let's say the PPO, the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois Platinum plan, right? And that's available to the C-suite of executives and all the upper management. So it's like a healthcare that the C-suite and the upper management have access to many different healthcare plans. And those healthcare plans also can have many employee groups sign up for them. So I need something in the middle. I just smashed these 2 together, but is there a better name for this?
Healthcare
It
groups.
should just be like group plans.
Joint table.
What's that? No, don't call it group joint table. I might just go with John's suggestion of group plans. That's not a bad thing.
But didn't we say like the other day that you could use
Registration.
the first from one, the last from the other?
Healthcare plans.
Healthcare
Healthcare
employee
groups.
groups, and you got healthcare plan groups or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's really whatever you'd like to
Can you
name.
just use HC plans, HC employee?
You could, but you want to make it a more descriptive than HC, because once your tables get larger, if this database got a lot larger, then HC is no longer as descriptive. So we can, it's up to you. We can name it enrollments. We can call it available plans. Okay, we'll just do, actually, what was yours was called group?
Healthcare plan groups.
Healthcare plan groups. Let's see if this works. Rake DB migrate. And now there's no issues.
Yeah.
So if I connect now to the if I connect to the database using pSQL, I have /D, you'll see that I have a whole bunch of new tables. I have that departments, the employees, the employee groups, the healthcare plan groups, and the healthcare plans. Those 4 things, those 3 tables that I just created.
But now if you edit the file now migrate section, and you run the migrate again. It's like a run. That's it. When you run the migrate and you fix anything like inside the migrate file, then you're gonna read again until you create.
That's correct. Yeah. So I believe your question is if like what happens if I just do this like t.string whatever, like I add something like that and I run db migrate again, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen because that migration file already ran. So just simply going back and just adding things is not going to make a difference. If I wanted to add a column to this, I would literally have to create another thing called I'd literally have to create something else called like add whatever to whatever table.rb. And then inside of here, like I would have to alter the table to create like another column on healthcare plan groups called whatever in order for that to follow up. So the moment it migrates, it's done.
So or you can drop the table and create it.
You can also just drop the table and recreate it, and then then you don't have to create another migration. That's oftentimes what people do. But obviously, when you come to production level things, like if I wanted to add some field to Amazon, like I wouldn't go back and delete the entire database. I would just like add it on for all future things. So I'd create another migration for that.
And you're gonna do that, you have to use that same name like for the table name.
Correct, yeah. Otherwise it doesn't know where to go. All right, so we've done 3 things so far. One is we've created the schema inside of the schema designer. We've created the migration files with like the tables and the columns and the column types. And then the third thing we're going to do, and then we migrated the database over. So now the database has all of these tables inside of it with a column called called name and age and salary and so on and so forth. The next thing you got to do is you have to create individual models for every single one of your tables. This makes it a ActiveRecord like Ruby object at this point. So I'm going to have to create a file called department.rb. I'm going to have to create something called employee.rb. I think it's called healthcare group. You called it, John?
Healthcare plan group. Yeah, something like that.
The plans.
Plans group.
Let's find out. So we go down to this DB to migrate. So we have department, and we have an employee. You'll notice that these are singular, whereas the table names are plural. And then we have healthcare plan. So we have to create that. Let's do healthcare plan.rb. Healthcare employee group. And then the way I'm saving this so quickly is I'm right-clicking on where I want it to go. Like it's going to be underneath models. And I click new file. So the next one is healthcare employee group.rb. And then the last one I believe is healthcare plan group. Oops. All right, so again, first things first, draw your database. This is where most of the things come into play. Like this is where you should spend a lot of your time, just making sure your database is the way that you want it. Next, I translate all of that into my DB migrate here. So I just basically said I have a table called departments. Create table departments. It has a name column that's a string. It has a headquarters city that's a string, a phone number that's a string, so on and so forth. So I create all of those and then I migrate it. So now I have a database with just like it's an empty database at this point. Where the Ruby comes in is under models. So each one of these tables corresponds with a Ruby model, like a Ruby class. So I have an individual department to correspond with this departments table. I have an employee.rb class that I'm going to create that corresponds with the employees table, and so on and so forth. the way that it looks is a little something like this. Class department. By itself, without inheriting from anything, this is just a plain old Ruby object. It doesn't connect to the database at all. But the moment I do, it connects from ActiveRecord base like this. Now this is an extension of the department's table inside the database. I believe this is the right way to do it. And then I'm just going to more or less do the same thing for all of these. Employee, healthcare employee group, healthcare plan, and then healthcare plan group. Again, create your migration, migrate it all over, and then create the corresponding Ruby class files that's going to go underneath models. Inside of these particular files, you're going to have to do that as many and belongs to that Mickey was talking about. Otherwise, it doesn't really know what to, like, how things are correlated with each other. So if I look back at my departments here, it looks like a department has many employees. That's fair to say, right? A department has many employees. All we have to do is has many employees. A department looks like it also has many healthcare employee groups. So same thing over there. Has many healthcare employee groups. And I guess it can say that a department also has many healthcare plans. What did we name this again? I'm sorry. Healthcare plan groups, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you can do all the associations here. So it has many employees, has many healthcare employee groups, has many healthcare plan groups through employees, and then has many healthcare plans through healthcare plan groups. Like, these are all the possible associations that you could possibly do with this. You can kind of see, like, because one is connected to the other, to the other, to the other, I can get to all of them through these tables.
But what if we put the wrong relationship, like instead of we put has many, we like belong to like opposite?
If you do it incorrectly, it will stop you when you start running your code. Mostly because this, if you take a look at this one doesn't have a anything underscore ID, so it doesn't belong to anything. A department exists by itself. So let me just kind of do the rest of the associations. Healthcare employee groups. We already said that. Healthcare plan groups.
Oh, it's right through.
Mm-hmm. Healthcare plans. So I basically just translated everything that I saw inside of the the diagram that we created and just translated it over here. A department has many different employees. Makes sense? Department has a lot of employees. Department has a lot of healthcare groups. These are the ones that are directly correlated with department. I can also get from here to here through this table. So I said a department has many healthcare plan groups through healthcare employee groups.
But if you don't do the last two, you cannot get to that table.
What's that?
If you don't do
If you don't do the bottom two, so it's kind of like, will you ever need to go from a department to a healthcare plan ever in your lifetime? Like, you could, like, you know, or you could not. It's really up to you.
It lets you make the call, right?
It just allows you to make the call directly from department to healthcare plan. If you don't never want to do it, then you don't have to.
But if you don't have it, but can you go to that by like maybe write a sequence? Like,
yes, you can say, like, you can get from here to here, and then make a separate call from here to healthcare plans.
So you have to join maybe two tables.
You have to join
so
twice.
you have to do, you don't even have to do the join.
You don't have to do the join. It does all those joins for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I was doing
So I'm going to move on to the next one, to employees right here. So it looks like an employee belongs to a department. So if I jump down here, I will just type that out. Belongs to department. Looks like a employee belongs to a healthcare employee group. Fair, right? Because I have that ID right there. Belongs to healthcare employee group. Belongs to healthcare employee.
Any belongs to you have to do twice. Once when you're doing the migration.
Yeah.
And then, but the other ones like has many and stuff are just models only.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you really want to continue on, you can say like an employee has many healthcare plan groups through this, an employee has many healthcare plans through that as well. I'm just going to copy it over.
If you don't do the belongs to, what happens?
If I don't do the belongs to, yeah, over here, you mean?
It
Then
won't-
you're then even though you have this underscore ID, it's not like it's not connected. So there's that like the ID exists, but there's no foreign key created, like relationship created. Okay, so employee has many, belongs to this, has many healthcare plan groups through healthcare employee groups. Okay, has many healthcare plans through healthcare plan groups. Okay, that looks right. Then we move on to this healthcare plan, healthcare employee group. So if I can go from here, this belongs to a department. It also has many employees. That's something we can see right off the bat.
An employee would only have one healthcare plan, right? Is that what it is?
No, they have like, they have many healthcare plans available for them. They have their choices of many different healthcare plans, but like in terms of like a registration for the healthcare plan, that's something else that would come down later down the road. Again, this is why I'm rewriting this assessment to make it a little bit easier in that sense.
That's what confuses.
Yeah. So healthcare employee group has many employees and belongs to a department. Feel good about that one? Belongs to a department, has many employees.
Would you have made enrollment a separate table or just put it on employees?
I would have probably done another enrollment table on here. Because an employee has many different enrollments throughout the years. So it's like you're a young person starting out, you might just need HMO insurance. As you get older and have children and stuff like that, you might move over to a PPO or like a more coverage. But instead of updating it directly here on the employee every single year, I have a separate table for that to see what your previous elections were. So this one looks like a healthcare employee group has many healthcare plan groups, this middle table right here, and then has many healthcare plans through that. Has many healthcare plan groups. Yep. I don't have a through. And then has many healthcare plans through healthcare plan groups. That's fair. A healthcare plan has many healthcare plan groups and has many healthcare employee groups through that middle table as well. I have a strong inclination that no one has any idea what I'm saying when it comes to this through stuff.
You're just saying that you can access that table, like you can access
I can-
healthcare plans
Yeah.
from employees through the other two.
Okay, I guess people do get it. Yeah, it's just like I can get from one area to another that's not directly correlated through me, to me through another table because I'm correlated with that table already.
Let's do the ID count.
So what would your result look like when you access healthcare plans through employees?
So I can just go like employees, like it would just return me the healthcare plan directly. But you see how these are not directly correlated. There's no direct link from healthcare plans to employees. What would happen is I'm connecting to here, which connects to here, which connects to there. So I can chain my way all the way up to healthcare plan. So the query would still return me a healthcare plan. It's just this creates me a link through all of these. That's where that through statement comes from.
And when you're doing this, when you do the query, like you don't have to join anymore. You just branch like.
No, you like that's the joy of like if you were to type this all in SQL, you'd be like employees join this, join this, join this, and then you can only query it that way. But because you're using ActiveRecord here, and you can say like has many healthcare plan groups, I can go just employees.healthcare plans, and that's it. Like because it creates those that it writes that SQL for me.
I just feel like that's finally seeing a benefit.
Yeah.
It's taken a while, but
yeah.
okay.
I mean, you can do 4 joins here. I mean, it's totally legitimate, but it's like it's kind of terrible. Yeah, I saw that face. Yeah.
Okay, so the migrations are telling us what kind of information we can put in, and the class or like the method is telling us how they all communicate.
That's correct.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm done.
But what if like
Done. See you guys.
no, but when you do SQL, like, you have to do left and right join.
Yeah.
Join, but
Yeah.
is this gonna like cut that one down?
Yeah, this one does full joins on everything.
So it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
when you join, you join.
Yeah.
Are we gonna? Okay, so I feel like this is gonna be something where next week we can be like, okay, well we don't need to do this either, and there's a way to just.
No, this one you have to do.
Okay.
You
So
gotta do that.
there isn't a simpler way to do this.
No, this is it.
This is as simple as it gets.
This is as simple as I mean, this is a very difficult. In terms of naming and stuff, this is very difficult. If you wanted to do a separate example, we can totally throw something together very
this is
fast.
our role here.
We are on a roll here, so I'll finish this up right now. As many healthcare plan. Okay, healthcare plan has many healthcare plan groups, and then has many healthcare employee groups through the middle table. And then finally, we have healthcare plan group. This belongs to a healthcare plan and belongs to an employee group.
Yeah. No, so like it was making an index. So the index that it created, it's named a particular way based on the drawings they're making. So it's saying like healthcare employee groups, the index of healthcare employee groups and healthcare plan groups on healthcareemployeegroup.id. So it was like trying to put all that information mixed together for an index. And it was like,
Just
this
too
is
long.
way too long, so you should reconsider how you're naming your stuff.
Yeah. Created the database and using a graphic thing. You can draw this. This is a lot faster if you just draw it too. Created my database, created all my migrations, which basically says like populate my database with these tables, with these columns, with these column types. Then I create
records yet. Just-
no records yet. Like nothing. There's nothing inside the database in terms of like there's one record under employee or one department. Right. As of right now, we got nothing. So that's just creating an empty database with all the tables and all the columns. Then I create a single class, like a singular version under models, which is like class department inheriting from ActiveRecord base. This will connect directly to a database record, so you can deal with it like a usual like Ruby class. But it also connects to the database. And I did all my associations at this point. This looks good to me. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create something called a seeds file to kind of play around. This is where a lot of people get stuck up, caught up. So I'm just going to, if all goes well, I'm just going to create a script for myself to seed the database with some dummy data. I'm going to create maybe 1 or 2 departments, maybe 5 employees, a few healthcare employee groups, a few healthcare plans, and see if they're all associated, if I can get from one end to the other. So first things first, how many departments do you want to make? You can make as many as you want. It's because it's a computer, it's quick. 3. Let's do department equals department.new. Department, what does the department actually have? So it has a name equals equals something. It has a headquarters city, and it also has a phone number, and it has a department head email address. And I'm going to department.save.
What's that last one?
It saves it into the database.
So in the past, you probably have seen create and then create main, where I told you the difference is going through validations.
Yeah, at this point, I think we can finally use the faker gem for real. Before we were just kind of glazing over it, but now we can actually do it. So let's create a random name. So let's look at the faker gem. And we have many different things available to us. Let's take a look at name right here. Title, legacy, creative director. Maybe is there a department, faker department? No.
There's one, isn't there a corporate one or something?
Company, okay. Faker, company catchphrase, BS, Duns number, suffix.
The name on it.
Yeah, we'll just do name. How's that? We're just going to name departments based off just random things. Faker company name. Headquarters city. So maybe there is a faker data for city. City address. Looks like, oh, right here, faker address city. So whenever I ask it, it'll look inside of their like old database of stuff and just pull me a random city or just some random collection of letters. What's that? This is a gem.
No, I'm saying that actual name is city.
It's nothing. Yeah, it's just
You
a
fell for faker data.
faker city. I think there's a phone number that you can put in really quick.
Phone number right there.
Oh, yeah.
Creative.
I don't
The
want.
phone number one,
Yes.
Been through all those contacts a million times.
Oh, strings, right? So it's no big deal.
Yeah, we'll just do this. It's being saved as a string, so it doesn't matter. Phone number, email address, and so on and so forth. Again, you spend the time up front, and you can have as much fake data as you want. There's email. Oh, there's a Family Guy one. I want to see that. Faker internet email. I do want to see this this Family Guy. Okay. Stupid. So I'm going to create a department, and then I can create an employee, so on and so forth. God, I just realized this might take.
So that seed is specific to employee.
right now it is.
For right now, it is, yeah. So right now, and then maybe I'll create 10 employees. I'm going to put all of this stuff inside of here. Let's see.
And again, you're doing this just to expedite the process, but it is better to have seed data.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, just so you can test that all the associations you've set up actually work. So maybe I'll just do employee equals employee.new.
Yeah.
God, this could take a while.
Like all the things you're going to create, it just happen once.
Okay. So for debugging, you don't need to put it in the seed files.
But what if you don't put the same thing in? Like if I admin but save. It's not gonna go to the database.
I'm sorry?
If you don't put the save, like
If you don't put the save, it doesn't save into the database. It has to save. You have to do the dot save in order for it to actually save into the database.
and does that mean they're gonna run like random name?
Yeah, they're gonna have a random name over and over.
But it's like when they save it, so it's gonna be still random. When they save it, like and you look for the table again, it's gonna be the same name or it's gonna be the
It's going to. I mean, it's going so it's going to choose a random name and then it saves into the database. Once it's saved into the database, it's steady at that one. It's just this is just to seed the database with some dummy stuff. Yeah. I don't know if this is actually the right thing. Let's find out.
Oh,
To choose a random number.
I think it's.
Nope.
I think it's rand and then short.
My bad. Okay, so I'll just change that around.
Wait. So why are you setting the employee name to a random number?
That is a great question because I thought I was on the wrong. I thought I was on the other line. Salary, maybe we'll do rand between 50,000 and 100,000. And then we'll do employee group ID. We'll just choose a random. We'll create 4 employees groups, right? And then the name will be faker name.
And then you just correlate the number with the actual data.
When you're creating those, you have to make sure they correlate to the correct department as well, right?
I'm just doing random departments.
I meant, so each department's allowed a certain employee healthcare group.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that those match as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So it can't be one.
It can't be one that
department's not allowed to have.
Yeah.
Is there a certain way you have to do that? Like when you create a record, you know what I mean?
You have to make sure that it actually exists. So it's like if I have 2 healthcare plans and I said that this person has a healthcare plan of like 5, like that's not going to work because it's out of scope in the database.
No, I just mean like, so let's say the department is Department 2, but Department 2 is only allowed 2 of the different healthcare plans.
Yeah, I mean, let's not worry about that for right now. But yes, eventually down the road.
I just thought it would like mess up our joins and stuff when we were doing it in SQL.
No, you just have to like prevent that. It's like only these ones are allowed. There's a way to set that up. We're not there yet. Okay, so we'll just create 4 of each then. 4 times do. Another way you could do it: healthcare plan dot create. Name is going to be some random name, and then maybe enrollment deadline will be some random date. I don't know how to do a random date. Rand date. I don't know.
We did.
There's a random date figure.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Date?
Is that what we need? Yeah, we.
Ah, okay. I like it. Sure. That's pretty cool. Between 2,000 days, 200 days ago and today, and the name we'll just do. We'll do Chuck Norris. No. We'll do Hey Arnold character. I'm just putting random stuff inside of here. So I'm creating 4 healthcare plans. I'll create 4 healthcare employee groups. Name.
Okay, so this format is different than the employee and department.
That is correct. Let me finish this and I'll explain it. So yeah, you did catch that. This is two different ways of doing very similar things. One is this is one way of doing it where you can just do like what we. This is kind of what we were used to, right? When we did like healthcare plan dot new, and then we pass in a whole bunch of things in a specific order. You can do that, or you can pass it as a hash like this. So when I do create like this, it's going to do new and save at the same time. So I don't have to do it like this, where I was like, create an empty new object. This object's name attribute is going to be this. The age is going to be this. The salary is going to be this. And then at the end, you can save it. This will do a new and save at the same time.
Make sure you add the save after line 18.
Oh, good call.
Okay, so yes.
Oh, and department should be department admin.
Enrollment deadline.
Thank you.
Oh, so that was all that one needed was name enrollment deadline.
Yeah, so again, two ways of doing the same thing.
It's just
The
that-
require faker up here, I'm going to need a faker gem in here. If all goes well, I can bundle install one more time to get the faker in at this point. And I do rake db seed. Please work. There is an issue on line 25 of seeds. I'm expecting a closing parentheses. 25. Oh, I forgot to close off. And one more for this. One. No, not that. I think that's it. Let's find out. Cool. Nothing blew up. And now the way that I can test that this actually works is I'm going to do rake console. This rake console will enter into like a actual, just an IRB thing. So I can do x equals 1 and then x plus 1, just the normal things that you would usually do with Ruby. But it also includes all of my database stuff as well. So if I do like department.last to get the last department, I have the ability to actually go straight into the database and get my last department. So I'm going to say d equals underscore to save it to the last one. So a department has many employees. So technically, if I did this correctly, let's go to department. I can do d.employees and it'll give me all the employees. Sorry, I'm going to split this real quick. d.employees. If this goes well, I should get an array of employee objects. And there it is. Employee number 1, name is Ulysses Mann, age 88, all that kind of stuff. All right.
Sure, it's hard.
I know. A department also has many healthcare employee groups. So if all goes well, I can do d.healthcare employee groups. And I have 2 of them. You know, I have one called Evil Monkey, and then another one called God. The God employee
You
group.
were in the gods of the evil monkey group.
We have some good healthcare.
I know. If all goes well, even though departments do not directly correlated with healthcare plan groups, I can also get there. So I'm going to do d.healthcare plan groups and then so on and so forth. So I'm going to test each one of these associations, and I can, as long as I can get from one end to the other, like there's a lot of stuff going on underneath this. Like all the SQL stuff is all abstracted away from you, so you don't have to keep writing all those joins yourself because it gets confusing. But yeah, that's essentially how I would set this up. So again, just one last time so we're absolutely clear. First things first, we always design the schema and make sure we spend the most time on this. Once that's finished, I just translate that into migrations. Migrations being empty files that I just tell it to fill the database with stuff. After that, I migrate it. It goes in order based off of timestamps. So the one with the not the most recent, but the most far away from right now, that will run first and then kind of move up the timeline. Then I create the singular classes with all the associations directly on here. And then finally, I create a seeds file just to make sure more or less that I can test this out and see that I can get from one end to the other. So yeah, I can do like d.employees.first. So it's like this department has many employees. Let's take the first one. Maybe I'll save this as the local variable E. This person has many different healthcare plans available to them. Healthcare plans. Is it? Oh, boo. I'm sorry. Where is employee? I think I messed this one up. An employee belongs to a department, has many employee groups. Yep, there it is. So if I go back over here and I exit and I do it again, let's just do E equals employee.first. So the first one, E.employee plans. Oh, healthcare plans. And again, I would just continue troubleshooting from here.
Why is it has many employee groups and employee?
That's a great question. I did not pay terribly large. Okay, so an employee belongs to a department. Oh, I'm sorry. An employee belongs to a healthcare employee group. And then an employee has many healthcare employee groups through the singular version of this, and then has many healthcare plans through the singular version of this as well. So let me fix that. As many. I don't think we actually need this. Let's find out.
Get to migrate again?
Nope.
One thing I didn't realize.
Yep. You don't have to migrate again after you migrated once.
I thought you said when you make changes.
I'm not making changes to the database.
It's just a model.
I'm making changes to the model. So I'm not altering the table inside the migration. I'm just altering the associations that I'm putting on through the class here. Only when I update stuff in here do I have to remigrate. When I'm here, I don't need to remigrate.
If you're in rate console, is there any way to like reload so you don't have to exit out, exit back in?
What's that?
If you make changes, is there any way to like reload or something so you don't have to like exit out of rate console and then?
Inside of Rails, there's something built in called reload bang, and it'll reload it for you. But right now, no, you have to exit and go back. Why is this not working? So E.healthcare employee group dot healthcare plans. Can I get from there to there? I can get there.
So you see that has new.
Yeah, maybe as many.
You can say has many healthcare plans through healthcare employee group.
I don't. It's not directly healthcare plans through the join table in the middle. Healthcare plan groups. And it has many healthcare plan groups through healthcare employee group. God, I don't think it's gonna work. We'll find out. Oh well. Let's not get into that right now. Obviously, and this is, yeah, we're going to change this to be a little bit easier. Does this help at all in terms of like understand a little bit more of under the hood? All right.
And if you wanted to see like the table, it's only way you have to go back to the database and look on like the post.
Are you saying
the healthcare employee group on the right through healthcare?
Ooh. What was your question again, Mickey?
I mean, if you want to see the actual data, like actual table
I want to see the actual table in Postgres or in console?
in here, can you
Here?
see?
Yeah, I can do, let's say, let's do employee.new or something. you can kind of see like this is a Ruby object, but they can tell you what it has on there.
Yeah, but you cannot see like the.
The actual records.
Mhm.
I can get all my employees.
But it's gonna come as a.
They're going to come as objects and not as actual records. Yes.
So if you want to see the table, you have to go back to Postgres.
The employee all that first. A equals underscore A. What is it? Healthcare plan. Ah, there you go. Thank you. So we can get from one end to the other. I'm just stupid. All right. Stop here.